Lori's going to give us some overview. We have a new packet sitting at our desks in case you haven't noticed them.
Okay, I think we talked about the virtual access points at our last meeting, and we've made some more evolutions and changes and improvements and enhancements in the product. And so I've asked Chris Nellis, who is one of our content managers for the virtual access product. She is in charge of the job seeker, the veteran, the explore my skills, and the employer piece. And so she's managing the content of this. What you're going to see today is the latest enhancement. This version actually has not been launched yet. It will probably go out later this week, including the brand new Explore My Skills piece that we just brought on board. We also just brought up the I Am a Student piece. Chris is the person who does our bi-weekly demonstrations via the GoToTraining product. So anyone who's interested in, you can do this right from your desktop and learn more about the product as you go. We brought everyone a folder today. Included in this are a number of items that were presented during the governor's recent press conference on the virtual access point product, and we also added a few other things. And I'm just going to introduce what those items are and then turn this over to Chris, who will do basically for you what she does during her weekly GoToTraining demonstration sessions. We have two brochures that we have in our virtual access points. One is in English and one is in Spanish. We have included, you have a press release from the governor. And I did this last night, put these packets together, and my screenshot is already out of date because I did not have the Explore My Skills piece. So what you see is brand new. We also, on our agency homepage, have an interactive map that people can click on, a map of Iowa, and click on a little blue flag. And Chris will be showing us that shows people, where they could go to a virtual access point in their community or location that they wish to go to. We also have information, and there are screenshots, pictures of that. We have a map of our virtual.
Show that map. Show the map you're going to.
The map, it looks like.
No, the next map.
That next map. That's actually where I was.
Okay.
You're ahead of me. We also have virtual access point workstations by county. This was as of November 11th. Mary Lou does a weekly report updating this, and so we expect that these numbers will change in the next report that will come out this Friday. We did take a brief hiatus for the Thanksgiving holiday, and so we've got like a 2-week gap. Otherwise, we will have this done on a weekly basis so we know where the sites are. We are in all 99 counties, and we intend to grow the number of sites that we have in those 99 counties. We also have some bar charts that show the number of services that are provided and how extended hour contacts have been coming in. We continue to have our pilot project on the extended hours. That's where we have staff, most managers and some volunteers available from 8 to 8 Monday through Friday and 10 to 2 on Saturdays to answer toll-free phone calls and instant messaging. Mike manages the data that comes into the UI Service Center on that. And Mike, if you want to make a comment about what you just gave us some new data yesterday, showing how that traffic's coming in.
Sure, extended hours.
Mike, can you come to a microphone, please?
On the extended hours, it's very clear that the customers want to talk to us on Saturdays. We have, by far, that's our highest traffic area. Otherwise, we're seeing a very strong pattern of folks wanting to be able to talk to us after traditional 8 to 4:30 hours. So it's been a very successful pilot and a very successful program, and I'm sure we'll want to continue to reach out to our customers in that way. So.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. On the right side of your packet, I'll start from the back. This is a version of a spreadsheet that Mary Lou provides. This, again, is out of date because it was done 2 weeks ago prior to Thanksgiving and will be updated this week. But it's how Mary Lou, we refer to her as the queen of spreadsheets. She has this thing sorted every which way that you could possibly imagine, by county, by type of access point, by community, but she can tell us at a glance where, what type of access point we have, whether it's in a courthouse, an armory, a community action agency, a high school, a community college. So this information, you might look through this and you might want to wonder, well, what do we have in Alameda? And you can see this was the alphabetized by county version. So that information is there for you. I'm sorry?
This one?
Yes. Yeah, I'm working my way towards the back. Because the newest information is on the
See
front.
where it's like second column.
County is the second column.
Oh, okay.
I also provided you 2 handouts that we provide to
Yeah.
potential
See,
hosts.
county. Oh, there it is. All right. And this tells us all these nice things about this. Is there any type of follow-up going on with any of these sites as to
Yes.
what's actually happening there?
Yes, we do, Greg. We call these sites routinely to make sure that they're having any problems, and we're all,
Well, it seems strange that when I visited some of these sites on October 12th at Arlington Public Library, they couldn't find the password, and then they tried to call somebody for the password, and there's a computer mark there that says access point, and a really nice book, but nobody could find the password, so I couldn't get into it.
well, we've updated the system where it requires
Okay.
no password,
Well, in
Greg.
Fayette Community Library, the same thing happened. They were pretty knowledgeable, not knowledgeable, they didn't know anything. Computer was off. Manuals are really colorful. And these are my notes. But because both of those were libraries, I became to wonder, how did CBC people and offenders get into these libraries? Because they're not allowed in these access
I think
points.
I'll let Teresa respond to that because she's had that question
We
posed to
actually,
her.
right, we actually had that question, and when we were over visiting some folks in Owine, and we have, as you folks know, a partnership with the Department of Corrections and federal probationary offices, and we have now access points in those customer sets for sex offenders, and primarily was the question, and other offenders before they're released out back into the community, and halfway houses. They're all part of our system as well, so they don't need to go to a library to get this information. They can get it in their own community where they're visiting their probation officer, or they're still incarcerated, or they're still receiving treatment of whatever kind. We then followed up with the Attorney General's office, who received the question, I don't recall from which legislator, but from a legislator concerning the same question. Is the state concerned about attracting the wrong kinds of people to the wrong kinds of places? And we've had a few libraries ask us that question, and we have said you need to follow the laws. And you report people today just the way you reported them yesterday. And that does not change. But the Attorney General's office did issue an opinion, and we'd be happy to send it, if you'd like a copy of it to the board, that does not believe there are any additional concerns for offenders of any nature being forced or somehow coerced into going places where they should not be going to begin with.
Thank you, Director. I also have a serious concern as to, it appears that we're looking more for quantity than quality here. Because it's interesting to get in your car and go around some of these. For instance, in New Hampton, there is no 451 North Lynn. It doesn't exist. There is a 951 North Lynn, and that office is closed as of 8/31, and the sign tells you to go to the virtual access point, which can be found at 200 Hardwood Candy Drive in Charles City. So there is no access point in New Hampton. Let's see, Kennedy. Look there in Dubuque. Kennedy Manor is a large, low-income, these are some of my notes, subsidy complex with multiple apartments, 2671 Own Court, apartment 72 is where the office is located. It's open Monday through Friday, 8 to noon for the sign and 1 to 4:30. Just seems that having this in a apartment complex didn't really come across to me. I think there'd be more neutral locations or more inviting. The next one there was at the Hope House Catholic at 1592, and it actually made the other one look good, even though it's a poverty area and it's really run down. There's a bunch of men, older men sitting on the porch. There's no real parking. Then the other one I went to was ECIA, and that's an East Central Intergovernment Association.
That's the WI service provider.
And that's basically a private company using government funds for their clients. And anyway, it's on private property, and there was no sign at all that had any kind of hours that it's open. So as we went around and did some of these, I mean, some of them were easy to find. Cedar Falls Library, hours, Monday, Tuesday, 9 to 9, Friday, Saturday, 9 to 5, located second floor. Showed us where the computer and the book was and left us alone. That's what they're supposed to. We did the same thing in Dunkerton. So that was actually closed when we got there. It said, sorry, we're closed. So it was 3 p.m. to 8. Had different hours all over the board for the week. And then the one I found really interesting was Manchester, and that's only open on Wednesdays from noon to 4.
Well, one thing.
And it's a, excuse me, once
I'm
again,
sorry,
I did not
I
interrupt you.
I'm sorry, I thought you were done, Greg.
And that location's open on Wednesday from noon to 4, and it's called the Drop-In Center, and it's located at the Veterans Center at 601 Grant Street, Manchester. So that tells me that the only people that can go in there are veterans. So we got all these things up here on the board, and they look really good when you're making a speech as to we got all these thousands, but obviously we have some serious problems with this system not working, and frankly, I'm sitting here every month, and I think some of the colleagues that are around this table are sitting here or every 3 months, and all we ever seem to hear is the rosy glow. We never seem to hear this part about it's not working. And that gets irritating to me to hear, oh, it's going great, oh, this, but frankly, that's not what I hear from the employees about how this program's working so good. That's not what we hear at council office. Every meeting, somebody comes here and tells me how rosy things are. And frankly, I want to hear the bad side of it too. And I'm not hearing it. And it upsets me when, actually I was stationed in eastern Iowa for about a month, and it made it real easy for me to drive around to these spots and come off of these things and look it up and go in there and say, hi, I need to hit the access point. It wasn't tough, that's true. But when I hear every meeting how this is such a rosy glow and the best thing since sliced bread, I just would like to hear what isn't working and what we're doing to address that.
May I ask a question? Greg, did you visit each of these places that you yourself individually?
Myself and other people.
Okay, because sitting next to you, I noticed that you're reading off a series of emails.
Yeah, because I emailed other people and said, this is my experience, what was yours?
You know, one suggestion may be that when you do get those types of emails, given that we have over 425 locations across the state, feel free to forward that along. Feel free, for quality control purposes, to forward that along, because I'll tell you, there'd be nothing I'd like more than to follow up on every single one of those individually with our partners, that are within our database, and fix those problems. Perhaps instead of bringing it in front of the board and talking about rosy picture and that type of thing, feel free to work with us. Feel free to send us a note along every time you get that type of complaint. I'd like that. I really would.
I would welcome that as well, and I wanted to point out is what Greg is pointing out is something that we just started, where hate to call it by this name, but basically a mystery shopper, quality control check, where we're going to periodically drop in and visit these to make sure that the machines are operating efficiently, that there is adequate signage posted. And so we want to do that kind of quality assurance. So if Greg gets that kind of information, I wish he'd send it to me.
Well, I understand those are points. I appreciate those points. But I believe that bringing it here to the board is exactly, I'm a board member, and bringing it here to the board is where it needs to be, so that the board isn't hearing, because like I said, it really bothers me constantly with, I think it's crazy. We have 401 now, and we just now started the mystery shoppers.
No.
No, that's what, excuse me, Director, but that's what I just
Well,
heard her say, is we just started
We
it a
do
couple of weeks
mystery
ago.
shopping, are you finished? I don't want to
Yes.
interrupt you,
No,
Greg.
go ahead. And I-
We are doing mystery shopping in the one-stop centers all the time now. And we have started a concerted effort. We've been doing these quality control checks, but because of concerns that we didn't know because as we get larger, we know that as it gets larger, there's more opportunity for things not to work the way we expect them to. And so we are basically ramping it up is what I'm saying now, and making more of a concerted, uniform, formalized effort to do this kind of quality control check. And that's where we're at right now. Some of the ones that you mentioned, I believe a few of those may be older Iowan facilities, and I hate to call it a nursing home because a nursing home connotates that maybe someone is confined to that location. But some of those, would you be willing to share those with me, Greg, before you leave today so that I can
No, I will.
follow through and fix them?
No, I'm not at this point. I want to know why I'm hearing rosy pictures.
Well, I want to fix what's broken, and I can't fix it if you don't give me the information. And I guess if Lisa,
Okay.
if Lisa took the notes, we will follow through. I guarantee you, I will give you my word that if I find out something's not working right, I will follow through on it. And that's my charge from my director.
And if I could add, we have a managers meeting every month and every other week fall, where we actually do go in and challenge the data and ask if we have entered the correct information. Just 2 weeks ago, we went in to verify the map. That Chris will show you the Google map that we have to make sure that the addresses were correct and what locations had not been updated, because we did just roll out a new updated version of the software so that we do not need a password any longer to log in. It's not a requirement. We have a very few of our organizations, like Veterans Affairs offices and armories, are not open to the public. They are open to only their customer set. In that case, it would be soldiers and their families, and we have always defined that as such. But no, there is no perfect set of information, and so we find errors every day. And we're out doing checks on the information because it's public information, and we want to be sure, as much as we possibly can, that the information is correct. Now, we also honor the host partners' hours of operations. We are not asking them to be open any longer than what their normal hours of operations are ordinarily. But we have staffed people ready to take a call or to answer an instant message during the extended hours and on Saturdays. We have always given out a sheet of information to our partners. I believe that's in the packet, isn't the sheet that explains to the partner. We don't expect them to change their hours of operation or change their rules or change their firewalls in any way, shape, or form, because we just want to make more information available in more places for our items today. And I do appreciate the information, and we will absolutely correct every one of them. And tomorrow there's going to be more errors. There are errors every day. So if you would like us to present you with a list of errors, we can certainly do that.
I'm not necessarily asking for a list of errors, it just seems to me that it's constantly a rosy picture. This is going great, well, it's not going great. I want to refer back to the concept of security. That's why I asked you if that system out there in the field, what can get into the main servers, and you answered that. That was very good. But I also, Mr. Mitchell did a report, and he used examples. They were one-stop shops, turning somebody's life around. I guess the thing that came to my mind right off the bat was, what happened there? And the good progress that was made there, and the way you utilized that as your presentation, which thank you very much for that, is not going to happen at one of these access points. And I understand we're not going to get back to the so-called bricks and mortar, because they're gone. The buildings, the leases, the furniture, everything's gone. But I just get, oh, we have 400 and 500 and 600, no, the pilot project's going great, no this, no that. Well, it's not.
Teresa?
Yes,
John,
Francis?
would it be possible that you could give us some kind of running update, issues that you find in generalities that you find with deficiencies in those access points, every during the meetings? Just update us as to, we had X, Y, and Z, and there's some trends we're seeing, so that we can, as those access, it seems to me that as those access points become more proliferated through the state, that's going to be a bigger issue. And I guess what would be nice is to hear not only the good things, but also some of those deficiencies, and then also hear the corrections that you're making to fix those issues.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. I think one example, to just give you an idea, was the password example. Because we did get questions and comments as the rollout was starting to get into all corners of the state, and we took that issue on and fixed the software, and that took us about a week and a half. Another issue that comes up, if I could categorize a couple for you now, is the issue of printing. A lot of people want to be able to print. We have just now started to implement the ability to print as long as the host site has a printer. So if the host site does not have a printer, you obviously cannot print, but we have now enabled the software so that if somebody wanted to print information, that the rules of the host site around printing, so if an organization charges 10 cents a page or whatever their rules are, or the rules for printing, but we have now just started to enable that functionality. We had, as I said, some issues with some new technology deployment that we deployed the first part of November, and took that back to our managers in November to validate names and places and addresses, and so we spent a whole meeting on that a week and a half ago with each one of our managers. And so those are mainly the areas right now. I know that people are interested in some of the enhancements that we're making, and we're making some of these enhancements that you're going to hear about today based on input from our customers. We did a survey for some of the test libraries that were up first, and they gave us some feedback as to what worked and what didn't work. We intend to continue that kind of a survey technique, and hopefully in the next few iterations we will add a survey right onto the software itself, so the consumer can, if they so choose, as with many other products, if they want to give us feedback and tell us what worked, what didn't work, so we can also use that for input into our changes. I think with the presentation that Chris will give us, because it is new off the press, I haven't even seen what's under Explore My Skills yet. formally, because I think it's in test mode and going to roll out maybe later this week. These are the 6 areas that we will be sticking with now for quite some time. So this opening screen will not change. However, the data behind each one of these icons will change and will grow to be more robust. That's why we have content experts like Chris is to monitor each one of these changes so that we know what the content is behind these. And we are now starting to have a scheduled update of software. Our meeting, we have a meeting every Tuesday on this particular technology. Our IT folks and the content providers within our shop are going to put us on a regular update. I don't know if it's going to be once a month or once every 6 weeks or whatever their judgment is on the appropriate timeline to do updates, which will allow us to firmly test all of the changes that we intend to make before we release a new software update to the content behind each one of these icons. Yes.
Getting back to the customer service issue, one of the things that we do at where I work is we have trained all of our employees to log anytime there's a concern, an issue, or a complaint. We have a database spreadsheet that they have to log that on this spreadsheet with their note on what's being done to satisfy that customer, in our case the student or employee or whatever. And then every week that list is submitted to all the senior management. Everybody at the organization, senior management, knows what the issues are that are out there. So, you know, it's kind of, if we don't know about it, we can't fix it type of thing. So this gets that in front of all of us, that if there's a physical plant issue or complaint, I know about it. Now I can go to my manager and say, what are you doing to correct this? So I don't know if that's something we can do here.
And then you have errors that aren't repeated. Isn't that the other outcome?
Right.
The same error isn't repeated over and over again.
You embed the result.
But that way, you know, whether it's the board or whoever, whether it's weekly or monthly, we know what some of those issues are.
It's a good idea.
Just to comment on that, first of all, their library employees aren't Iowa Workforce Development employees, and I've been hearing from library board members and librarians that are involved with this that, you know, they welcome the access points in a lot of places. They felt that, you know, that would enhance maybe possibly services, but they don't have time to, you know, sit down and work with these individuals, clients that are coming in. They're basically, it's kind of point and shoot type thing. And I just wondered if you guys are doing customer satisfaction surveys and talking to the customers themselves. And there's got to be some data out there that says that this stuff is working. I'm hearing from the governor that the unemployment rate dropped because of what you're doing. So, you know, in one of his press statements said that, well, this is proof the unemployment rate's dropped, these access points are making a difference. And so if you got some data that backs that up, I'd really love to hear it. You know, and I agree with what Greg's saying is that, you know, this board to me has been downplayed in your administration, Director. I don't feel that it's valued as it was. I don't see the packets getting to us in a timely manner. They talked to us before. I heard today the reason it didn't get mailed out was there's not much in it, but yet we get a supplemental package that's full of information that I'd appreciate to have an opportunity to go through ahead of time. You know, these meetings don't occur on a weekly basis or even a monthly basis, so there's certainly an opportunity for your staff to put the stuff together to get to the board, out of respect to the board. I also, you know, want to know what the data that shows, is there been an increase in the one-stops? I mean, how many more people are coming in compared to what was going on before? How many total contacts do we have? in the system compared to that was going on before. So give us some information so we can kind of track and see how this is going. I understand that, you know, that we're probably not going to see these sites back for some time, most of them, although I truly believe that it's a major mistake to shut down the satellite office, especially in Ames with a college. Our universities are a one of our number one recruiters to keeping young people to come into Iowa, to experience Iowa, and we want to keep them here. And, you know, I really believe that that office is important. But besides that, I do think that there's more of a whitewash here about this program. There's something you're going to have problems. I understand that. I think that's why you got a board to bring up ideas. You know, Representative Jorgensen threw one out there that, you know, on first level seemed like it'd be something that might be able to work if we can get the Library Association, you know, to show some interest in time. But they're saying, well, this is, you guys are asking us to do stuff, you know, when the legislature at the same time is cutting their budget close to a third over the last few years. And they feel that we always talk about that in the legislature as unfunded mandates, where we're pushing more of what we should be standing up with responsibility to pay for onto local governments and asking them to do it. And so, you know, not stepping up to the plate ourselves and figuring out a way of either don't do this or pay for it. And so I feel that there's some of that going on here. And, you know, I'm concerned about it. And I think David, when he gave his examples today, is a prime example of why we need, you know, actual people on the street working with clients. You know, one of his statements was, if it was just one of us working with his client, that person could have fell through the cracks, you know. But it took a team of people, and being a former employment training specialist and worked with individuals, you know, we know that there are people out there that need that extra help. They need to be able to look them in the eye and tell them, you know, you're not coming to this meeting appropriately. You know, when you're sitting in a library, that screen isn't analyzing Jane Doe or John Doe about how they're dressed and how they look. But when they come in and sit down and look me in the eye when I'm sitting in that office, and I'd say, listen, if you're going to reach employment, you're going to have to change the way you view yourself and the way you go through things. And that's what Iowa Workforce Development professionals have been doing for a long time. And I feel we've taken a major step backwards on helping people in certain areas of this state. Now, if you're lucky enough to live in a population density area that you have one of the 16 one-stops, that's great. But if you're living out in another community somewhere where you used to have these satellite offices and it's no longer there, they're not getting treated the same way. They don't have equal access to government. I see the governor's, lieutenant governor's statement that, you know, that this is great. It's the first time when that people in Iowa have access to services in the history of workforce development. Well, I don't know what kind of services you get staring at a computer screen when the people need access, extra help, or they need that kind of guidance of where to go. I mean, it's not the system it was, and I feel that there is a whitewash trying to tell everybody that this is the greatest thing since sliced bread and workforce development is better because of it. In my opinion, it isn't, it won't be. But I believe that these access points are something that we probably should have worked on before as a board. That there should have been more, but we did have them. It's not new. I mean, I don't know why you just don't say everybody in the state's got a computer, count that up. You know, instead of 500 or 600 access points, why ain't it 1 million? Because I bet there's 1 million computers in Iowa. There's got to be. And you know, you can access workforce development virtually through those computers. That's nothing new. So these access points, I know your team's working hard in trying to eliminate some of these problems. But, you know, I agree with the whitewash. I see it in the press. I hear the governor's statements. You know, the unemployment rate's down because of it. I ain't hearing that data here from the board, and I want to know if that data's out there. I want to be able to see it. Because then I would be the first to admit I'm 100% wrong in what I've been saying. But until I see that, and I see some data, and I see customer satisfaction surveys, and I hear from people saying, thank God the library's, pointed me up to that computer because I never would have got a job because of it, then the whitewash continues in my mind. So I'm interested in seeing more about how the system works, and I know that we're supposed to have a presentation, but I believe in what Greg's saying, and I don't think that what his experiences and some of the people that he works with that have experienced those things are just limited to one area, because I'm hearing it from a lot of people. And so we need to work together as a board and put more ideas out there to try to continue to improve this stuff. And I'm extremely frustrated with what I've been seeing on this board and how the board, in my mind, is being viewed. And I know that there's no reason for us not getting a lot of this information ahead of time and mailed to us. So thank you.
What I'd like to just share your concern for data, and we are trying to collect it in your packets. You do have a chart as far as usage goes, because we know that people will want to understand the usage of the access points and how are they being used compared to the usage of the offices that we have transitioned out of. And so the workforce services provided gives you a snapshot of how it compares to last year at this time. This is actual services produced through the access points. So you will be able to see how it compares. We've just got 2 months because we've just obviously begun the calculating of the data. And we will be sending this out to you every month, so you will be able to see how the services are being utilized through the access points. The other piece of data that we're collecting, that this month would be the first month, so I don't have it for you yet until we see it on Friday, is we are also collecting usage by location. So if you want to talk about the New Hampton location as an example, you will be able to see how much usage per location is being utilized. This our partner host groups want the information as well to see how much of their utilization they have with access points, and they may want to keep the opportunity or may not want to keep the opportunity to have the information there. So that piece of data is just now starting to come out, and we will be sharing that with you each month as well. The reason Lori showed you this map, I have to explain it a little more, because we did take this idea from unemployment. We always issue a map every month showing what the unemployment rates are by counties, and generally speaking, how the counties are looking with their unemployment rates. But because we had really an inability to demonstrate how many computers were actually being used to access this information, this is the adaptation of that unemployment map to a more of a saturation for appliances out there. I'd like to be able to count every computer, Senator, but everybody, people cannot get access to all the services that we provide just by going through our website. And that's a hurdle that we're still working on. Will take us probably several years to get over, to get all the information on the website, and that's why it's important to have our software on as many machines as we can possible throughout the state, so that anybody has a full array of services that we could provide them through the software on the machine where we've loaded it.
I do have 2 other comments, and I know Dee on our lunch is here, and will be as indicated, we'll take a break to get your lunch, and then of course we'll do a demonstration. I visited an access point yesterday, and in listening to the host, they questioned whether or not we would consider putting some type of tutorial on the access point, so a first-time user could kind of walk them through it, show them screenshots, explain, you know, how to do this, how to do that. And we thought that was a great idea. I brought that back to our weekly meeting yesterday, and actually Chris, the presenter, has been assigned that, and so we're gonna put a tutorial on there. So that would, I think, help alleviate some of the concerns from hosts who wonder if they're supposed to show a user how to they can show, you know, introduce that. Because our expectation is the host, you know, have the machine turned on, have signage displayed. We're also going to add some additional signage in the locations that indicate that, you know, that this is IWD equipment, and that make sure that the phone numbers are prominently displayed everywhere so that people have the information. And in regards, I do want to, talking about Dave Mitchell's examples, I am still thinking about the example Dave provided at our last board meeting here of one of your clients in Oskaloosa who had used the virtual access point and had been very successful in finding a career, finding an employment. And that was a VR client. And I don't know if you, some of you were here at last meeting, but Dave was pretty eloquent in sharing that information. And that would still resonate with me as that's an example of why we keep doing what we're doing. When I started in workforce, I was told if I made a difference in one person's life, I would be a success. I thought that was kind of lowballing it, but that's resonating with me. But that's why we're continuing to do that for those individuals, those little successes that may come in small numbers as we move ahead with this.
Lori, I have a question. I'm just going to make a comment. I'm impressed with the diversity of access points throughout the state. It appears to me that what's happening here is that workforce development is going to where people who need jobs or need opportunities, need assistance, where they're at, as opposed to making them go to someplace more distant. I guess I may not be putting that very well, but you know, I like to see. Greg mentioned that it was in a poverty area. I think you mentioned one of them was in a poverty area. That's exactly where they need to be.
Well, we're not doubting. In one area, I got the police called on me because there was no place to park. I went around the block a few times. The area, there's a school. Somebody called the police because there's a guy in a pickup driving by the school. Well,
They're also vigilant.
That's a good thing. Yeah, somebody actually did that. I'm not going to deny it, but the idea behind that is there was no place to park to go into the access point. So that became, you know, I guess the thing is, I would like to hear more than just the success stories. I want to hear the problems that are out there. The representative Dorison came up with an idea that it doesn't work because they're not on plate, but perhaps we can partner with them somewhere that they can tell us what problems they're having. But before we go jumping in and throwing roses on there, let's look, something's happened. You don't do something on this scale and not have problems. Understand that, but it doesn't seem like we hear the problem. And that's the point that really bothered me. And yes, we were stationed, these are union representatives in eastern Iowa, and most everybody on this table knows why we were on vacation and over in eastern Iowa at different times. And I'd say, I went to this place and now I want you to go there and send me what you've done. And then I combine it. And that becomes a problem. I think these places should be, let me put how they didn't hit me as welcoming. I mean, that was it. There's no parking there, it's on the street. I had to go through, in my term growing up on the Lower East Side, these bumps out on the sidewalk and sitting on the porch and so on. For a single mother and a single woman to go in there, I'm thinking, this isn't going to happen.
Well, and you're correct. I appreciate that input, but of course it's that very theory, Craig, that we're using to try to get as many in different kinds of partners as we can. I mean, nobody likes to go to a halfway house either, but we're trying to facilitate people getting information to get to jobs. Some people are very educated. Some people are in very bad situations. And their world is very different than where services are necessarily, just like 430 East Grand. Not everybody feels comfortable coming down to 430 East Grand to get training or to get whatever assistance or help they need. They might feel a lot better going down to Creative Visions because their element and their population and their comfort level is contained in that kind of an environment rather than in more of an office environment that 430 East Grand is. And so we are using that theory that no, not every one of these access points are welcoming to any of us, quite frankly. But Iowans need help everywhere. And so we're trying to go to their comfort level, not to have them have to transport themselves to where our comfort level is. And that's why the more opportunities on their terms we can get out there and get them information, that's why it's really helpful to them, because they can do it on their terms and not on our terms. I think that's why we're seeing Saturdays so utilized, because people have their own schedules during the week, whether they're employed or not employed, and different types of hours meet their personal lifestyles. And that, I think, is why we're seeing a lot of different kind of traffic on extended hours. Is we all do it ourselves, you know. Some of us go in and do online banking at 10 o'clock at night, and not necessarily between 8 and 5 when banks are open in the real estate that they have. And so that's what we're trying to facilitate. So I appreciate your comments, and you're right, they are not all inviting opportunities to go visit, because that is not the population we're after in that particular locality. We're after a different population that might need help or information to get a job.
Well, I just think, I think I've made my point. I believe that all we're seeing is the rosy side of this. I think and I believe that what we're seeing is a rush to have as many out there as possible. And I'm going to go back to my, I think we're looking at quantity more than quality. I mean, one of them was on the second floor. You know, I was like, no parking. I'm thinking, well, this is no sign, no nothing. You had to go in and ask. And they didn't know what it was. They wanted to know, you know, and when I got to the point where unemployment office, then they were able to respond. Oh, that's upstairs. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, we need to, instead of this rush to quantity, let's get to quality, because I believe personally the 55 one-stop centers, the 55 spots we had were extremely high quality. And the person walked in there and you got, you know, and then we went to this integration thing, the 16 integration shops. And you know, I'm just not seeing this rosy picture, and I feel like somebody's trying to constantly pull it over my eyes, is to say, well, everything's bright and gray out there, and it's not.
Thank you, Greg. Can we move on to a couple other people?
Absolutely.
Sally, you had a question?
I just had a kind of a silly question. If my husband had to go and look for a job, he'd have to have someone help him learn how to click on the sites. And you're talking about the tutorial kind of thing. Is there some, you know, doesn't someone have to help some of these people learn how to click on these sites?
And we recognize the access points are not for everyone. And so truly, if he doesn't know how to use the computer, this is not really where he should go.
Yeah.
He should go to one of the one-stops.
Okay, that's.
Or if he, you know, or he could call one of the one-stops, and we would first want to direct him, you know, if he'd be interested in taking a digital literacy class and get some basic computer instruction.
Yeah, but some of these people might
So,
not.
and so what we've been telling the host sites is, you know, we don't expect them, I mean, they have jobs to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I told the site I visited yesterday, that, you know, we don't expect you to do this. And the gal I was speaking with, you could tell she just was a very helping person, and she was helping people that came in. And I said, you know, now you've got a reputation in town. Everyone will come because they know you'll help them. So, but this isn't for everyone. I mean, if you truly don't know how to use a computer.
Right. And it's part of what, you know,
Yeah.
just because he's an older gentleman, and he relies on his wife for all this kind of thing. But he could do it, you know, with a little help. But I'm just saying, in my office, and we're considering doing an access point in my office, My gals are very helpful. They go out of their way, so they would probably go over and say, here's how you click that, you know, whatever.
You know, and I told these people yesterday, I said, you know, I don't expect you to do this, but I can't stop you from doing it, because they really wanted to do this. And that was part, it was in a social services office, it was,
Yeah.
that was kind of part of their helping nature. But we certainly, that is not our expectation, because we know people have their own jobs to do, have their own responsibilities. And we also recognize that this is not the Band-Aid for every situation. That does not exist. Our one-stop centers are probably not for everyone, because we know there's people that do not want to go into what they see as the unemployment office, although we fight hard to get rid of that moniker. But there are people that would prefer to do this kind of thing at 2 o'clock in the morning in their pajamas, in their own home. And so this is part of repackaging and trying to get more information out and trying to get as broad an audience as we possibly can. Mouse.
The schools. Is there a possibility to have this in the schools before this graduation year? Or is there a problem with why they're not in the high schools already?
Well, actually, I just had a call last week from Dale Barnhill, who's the principal of Norwalk High School, and wants it in as soon as possible, because Norwalk students have a community service requirement as part of their graduation, and so they want to be able to help set this up. And
I'd like to see that become a priority to get it in schools
Yeah.
before graduation.
And I know Teresa has really strong thoughts about that too.
I had we have now 5 high schools. This would be the 6th. For a number of different reasons, volunteer to be an access point, and we are piloting several things on what we think is important for high schools to know. And we're working with these individual high schools since they came forward in both I am a student, explore my skills. It gives students an opportunity to see what the job market is like, what kind of skill sets they need to have, why they have to take another algebra class or another whatever class, because their interest field, they can see what the employers are asking for in those jobs. And so I went to, a week ago, had a long session with Linda Fandel and Jason Glass, Director Glass, about deploying this throughout all of the high schools. And they are currently playing with the tool. Since we do have it in many colleges and community colleges, working with the same kind of thing. And actually, our strategy for 2012 was going to try to be a major push in high schools, in all the public high schools, and private as well if they want to utilize the technology. But I wanted to be sure that the director of the department understood the technology and understood the data that was going to be deployed, and because I know we would be asked that, and we'd probably be remiss if we hadn't gone to the Department of Education. So I'm very hopeful that before the end of the year, that we will have yet another meeting that we have set up to discuss what's the best organizational way to deploy this. We can put our method together, but I'm sure that the Department of Education has an idea on what the best way is to deploy it and utilize it throughout the high school. So I think we're right together with your suggestion, because we really saw this as an initiative in 2012 we should be pursuing.
I know too that when Director Owen, our superintendent of schools, came, he was very willing, and they're working on how they're going to integrate that into O1. So that is,
Is this information then, or is it at least in the counselor's offices and in the schools right now?
No, but it will be. It will be. The department has all the information and shared it with the Department of Education. And our rollout has not begun. With the schools that we're in, yes, all this information is there. It's in each one of the offices like
Well, I mean, I just think it's great, because when they graduate, if this is what they've learned in school, this will be the norm. And if we miss even this graduating class, it would be a shame.
Greer, Christy Jenkins on our team did present to the School Counselors Association though, at a meeting, and presented the access point systems and the information and things like that as well, to get it out, to start getting it out there ahead of the game.
And I would say that if any school contacted us now, we would welcome them and help them set up. We're not waiting until the next school year. I mean, any school that would want to be part of the project right now is certainly more than welcome to do so.
One additional piece, Lori, too, is that the department will be working with workforce development on the GED piece, on how that GED information can be given out through the access point.
Yeah. There's just tremendous lot of information for students in high school, as well as teachers in high school. Because both I think can gain a lot of information about what the work environment is like. And, I think it's helpful for 9th graders as it is with 12th graders. Not only GED information, but we're going to have practice testing on that for certification skills, for perhaps the entrance exams, those kinds of things. We're going to put and utilize as much practice information that can help facilitate higher skilled, higher education for those kids.
And I would hope we would prioritize into the IJAG program. Those classrooms are really,
We've got IJ.
you've got it.
Yeah,
IJAG
we've already talked with Lori Phelan and
Okay. Good. I think this is a good time to take a break. We'll have time for some more questions after our presentation. So write them down during lunchtime.